Hello, I guess I am live for the first time. I wasn't even sure if this would work. As my dedicated followers might know, I upload a video every single week. This week is a crazy, crazy busy week for me. Um, and I wouldn't be doing justice if I did a video uh, for you without the proper preparation. You might better tell I haven't done proper preparation for this live, but I wasn't even sure if my account was able to go live. So I thought I'd give it a go. So this is a test. Um, you may not get much benefit out of this, and I totally understand if you want to just click off now and not watch. This is a good practice run for me for when I will be doing my live surgeries. I'll be announcing on all my social media when I'll be doing my live surgeries. So if you've got any questions, you can either send me messages on Facebook and LinkedIn, or you can comment on these videos and I'll be checking the comments so I can be answering your questions then. You can maybe even phone in when I'm live, excuse me, and answer questions live on the surgery. So today I thought I'd log in and just give you a quick insight into how I got into health and safety. You could possibly say that I was a poacher turned gamekeeper when it comes to health and safety. I was probably one of the most dangerous people in my workplace. I grew up in a very close-knit community. My family were commercial fishermen. So from a very young age, I was going out on a small 30-foot trawler that had no safety equipment, no life jackets. Flares probably weren't in date. And I absolutely loved it. Had quite a few near-death experiences, but have very fond memories. As a child, I broke my arm more than once. I've had several broken bones. I almost hung myself one day trying to create a rope swing in a tree in my garden. And when I did my electrical apprenticeship, shall we say, I wasn't adverse to cutting corners and got a few shocks. I learned the hard way. I then joined the Royal Navy and the armed forces. How should we say it? The armed forces view on safety is quite different to anywhere else. They have great safety procedures in place, PPE, and procedures. And like I said, the procedures in the Navy were brilliant. They were so basic but so simple. Diagrams on how to mix up the chemicals for mopping a floor, really made for idiots and worked easily. But in the armed forces, when you're playing with big missiles and guns and stuff, there's always going to be a very different element of safety that needs to be taken into account there. So I left the Royal Navy and started working for myself for a while, and then got into the wind farm industry, offshore wind, when it first came into the UK. Exciting new industry. I knew a lot about boats. I knew lots about being at sea. I knew about electricity. And I knew how to work hard. I knew how to graft. It's a minimum 12-hour day shift on an offshore wind farm, and I didn't mind getting my hands dirty. As it was a very new growth industry, I progressed quite quickly, as did many of my peers at the time. And I quickly went from being on the tower team, doing electrical and mechanical work, to being an operations manager for small teams. And from operations management, which was managing the day-to-day logistics, I started learning more about project management, and I did Prince 2 project management, which I'm happy to talk about if anybody's interested in project management, be it APMP or Prince 2, what the benefits are of them and the difference and everything. So if anybody's interested in project management, let me know. I'll always quite happily have a chat about that. So as a project manager, my responsibilities were very varied. Risk was a massive thing, and project risk, financial risk, commercial risk, as well as health and safety risk. Health and safety was done, I say was done, is done brilliantly by the wind farm operators, the likes of Dong Energy that is now Ørsted and Siemens. Those Germans and Danes knew how important safety management was from day one, proactive safety culture. And they really integrated safety into everyday work. It wasn't a bolt on. It wasn't one guy's job that came around with a clipboard and an extra shiny high vis jacket. Excuse me. It was everybody's responsibility. There was lots of good slogans like "You see it, you own it," And it really was meant. Safety observations were a massive thing when I was working in offshore wind. So they would sometimes incentivize people making safety observations. And from a business point of view as well, the small company that I worked for, they ended up not being a small company now, but they certainly were when I worked there. They certainly incentivized safety observations, and it was a really good business tool for them as well. So if they went onto a tower and there were hazards that shouldn't be on that tower, they can report that to the main contractor, but then also on the back of that, put a price in to go and sort those hazards out. Now, when I first started the wind farm industry, I'm not afraid to admit I was Jack the Lad, ex-Royal Navy, ex-commercial fisherman, thought I knew it all, mid to late 20s, fighting fit and strong, not too many cares in the world. And I wasn't the safest of people on that wind farm. I got called out for it by a competitor of the business that I was working for. It was there was quite a bit of that going on, especially in the early days. I'm not sure if there still is so much now, but if you were a small business in the wind farm industry and you wanted to take a piece of the pie for somebody else, the best way of doing it was reporting them for their bad safety, which is a bit underhanded. But hey ho, I did something wrong. It got back to the main contractor, who then spoke to my boss, and my boss luckily didn't fire me. I really appreciate that he didn't, because my life would be very different right now. He did, in no uncertain terms, tell me that my behaviour was unacceptable, and I had to take a long, hard look at myself. And I wouldn't say I was dangerous, but I was acting in a way that could have put other people in danger without me realising. But also, my attitude wasn't the right attitude to be a leader in project management or in safety. Everyone has different abilities, physical, mental skills. You can't have one rule for one and one rule for the other when it comes to workplace safety. You really can't. Just because you're fitter and healthier than someone, just because you can lift more than somebody else. If there's a job to do and there's something to be lifted, then that needs to be able to be lifted by everybody. So you can't just say, oh, you fit, healthy, younger people, you don't need to take safety so seriously. But those that are less able to do, you just can't. So I learned a big lesson about myself, about safety, and started on my journey towards understanding what it was to be a good leader. So I made a marked improvement very quickly, because I realized the severity of what it was that I did and what I could have lost, and also what I could have caused for other people, not only other people's safety, but the damage to the guy that had given me a job's reputation by having people that were unsafe working for him. So I made a rapid turnaround and suddenly saw quite a few promotions and got to go and visit lots of wonderful, exciting places over the UK, over Denmark and Germany, and other great places in the world, and really to have some great experiences. So I'm now, I guess, a middle-sized to big fish in a very small pond of the company that I was working in, and things were developing fast, and it was very demanding, both from work life and personal life. And there was a lot of people coming from other industries that were more than capable of becoming operations managers from transferable skills, and also project managers. We were also contractors as well, and the business was growing and identified the need to employ people. And as you can imagine, the earnings of an employed person with a job security is a lot less than that of a contractor that's taken an element of risk. So I guess early 2010s, I decided to leave the wind farm industry. I'd identified that safety was such a key part of the wind farm industry, but of any industry, and safety was really, really important. And that is the point where I'd gone from poacher to gamekeeper, shall we say, and wanted to pursue safety more. I've met some great safety guys, some real leaders in safety, who integrated, like I say, integrated safety into everyday workplace, and it didn't stand out as an annoyance. So I happened across a job at a business consultancy. Excuse me. They were looking for their second health and safety consultant. The guy that had been doing it before had grown that aspect of the business, and I think he was struggling to keep up with all the clients that he had. And I guess in my unique skill set of experience in doing things differently appealed to them. However, I wasn't formally qualified in health and safety then. I'd done i-HSEQ Managing Safely, which is a short course for those that have responsibilities for health and safety, but not directly health and safety managers. And I had a lot of experience, a lot of transferable skills, and a lot of knowledge, just not the formal training. That company recommended that I did an NVQ in health and safety. I believe it was the NVQ 6 when I do that. Previously, it'd been the NVQ 5. Now, an NVQ doesn't teach you anything. An NVQ, if you've done one, or if you're aware, is evidence-based. So the idea is that you do the work, you learn on the job, and then you demonstrate to the NVQ assessor that you've learned it on a job. You can demonstrate you've done it, and it's all signed off. The problem with this working where I worked was the requirements of the course didn't match what I was doing as my job. And I couldn't see any way other than fudging it, basically, other than making stuff up, which I could have done. I could have made stuff up to meet the requirements of the NVQ, but it wasn't what I was doing in my job. It certainly wasn't anything that I'd learned in my job. And despite having not necessarily been the safest worker in the past, I like to think that I've always had integrity. So the idea of making something up for safety to present to an NVQ assessor to gain my qualification, which I really wanted and really needed to progress in my career, just didn't sit right. So I did some of that course. I did some of it, but I couldn't finish it. I just couldn't, not honestly, anyway. I'm not going to go into details on how I left that business consultancy. It was quite a long time ago now. I didn't feel great about it at the time, and I'm sure they didn't. But time warps memories, and maybe they were to blame. Maybe some of it was me. Maybe it was 50-50. Who knows? But I don't think it's right that I go into that. Anyway, so I left that business consultancy that had taken me in. I'd learned a lot about consultancy. I didn't really learn anything about safety at that consultancy, but I certainly learned about being a consultant and going to lots of different businesses and seeing different companies and helping lots of different industries with safety. And being able to take the stuff that I'd learned on the wind farms and transfer it into different industries, that best practice that I'd learned that perhaps hadn't been spread around in the local small businesses that we were working with. Now, when I left that company, I had no idea what I was going to do. I wasn't happy there, which is why I left. I wasn't fully qualified in safety, so I couldn't just go out and demand a job as a health and safety manager, because despite my in safety, we look at competence. I always like to use the acronym of SCATE, which is skills, knowledge, attitude, training, and experience. Now, I believe I had the skills, the knowledge. I certainly had the right attitude by then. I didn't have the training, but I had the experience. So I was missing one of those elements. I did, however, have a lot of experience and competence in electrical work, which was my formal training when I left school. So when I left that consultancy, I was actually going to go back and be a self-employed electrician. I was looking for work in my notice period, and purely by chance, the CEO of the wind farm company, he had two active companies at the time. I think he had quite a few companies. He was an entrepreneur. But yeah, he had two active companies that were in offshore wind. One was supply of people and resources, the chartering of vessels. The other one was building boats. So whilst I was actually at my allotment, wondering what I was going to do for the rest of my life in my career, and whether I should work for myself in electrics, whether I should pursue safety, he gave me a call. He gave me 10 minutes to get into my car and drive to his office, which wasn't appreciated by me because I was all hot and sweaty and dirty and wanted to get changed up smart for my interview, but I didn't have a chance to. So I went straight to his office in muddy clothes, and he told me what he wanted. He told me what he needed. He needed a q-HSE manager for his boat building company. I won't go into too many details as to why he needed it, but he definitely needed it. We had experience working together. He was the guy that I'd let down, and he gave me a second chance, and I proved myself. And there'd been water under the bridge from me leaving previously, and it was a different company. So he told me what he wanted. I didn't get any choices in it. He wrote the salary package and everything else on a piece of paper, passed it to me on the desk, and said, if you want a job, that's the package that's on offer, which I took straight away. I think it annoyed the consultancy that I worked for because I'd left the previous company to go back to them, and then I've gone back to the other one. And I think they thought that it was a setup or an intention, but it wasn't. But that's how things work. Time moves on, doesn't it? Anyway, so I ended up working for this company as the q-HSE manager. I didn't ask them for training money. I'd done that. I didn't ask the previous company for training money. They offered to pay for it, but it got a bit sticky when I left them over who had the qualification, who should be paying for it. So this time around, I decided to self-fund my training, and I put myself through the NCRQ. Now, I looked at the NEBOSH long and hard. There's a lot of guys out there looking to get into safety, and this is why I've really making this live, to get some content out there for anybody that wants to watch it this week. But this is more aimed at people that are aspiring to get into health and safety. Be it you're coming out of college or university right now, or you're in another career and you're looking at a sideways move. The NEBOSH today is certainly more recognised in the UK and globally. It's a very established qualification, both the certificate and the diploma. I know a lot of people that have sat the NEBOSH, the certificate and the diploma. I've worked my way through a lot of the mock papers, and the feedback from the examiners is easily accessible. And most people fail NEBOSH or get questions wrong because they haven't read the question properly. Not because they don't know health and safety, not because they're not experienced, or not that they don't know parrot fashion, which regulations came out in which year. But I'll give you an example. If you're asked to list 5 regulations that are applicable in UK health and safety, you should know 5 regulations. But if you write it in a sentence, those 5 regulations in a sentence instead of a list, you're going to fail that question, or at least lose significant amount of marks, I believe, because you didn't write a list, you wrote a sentence. And to me, doesn't sit very well with me. I can understand where the attention to detail comes in, and to understanding a question comes into it. You certainly need to pay careful attention when you work in safety and quality and environmental management. But we're human, right? And there's got to be an element of quality versus quantity when it comes to the work you produce. And if you make the odd spelling mistake, there's a lot of cut and pasting that goes on in my industry, as you can imagine. There's going to be the odd mistake. So penalising people so heavily for writing a sentence instead of a list, I don't think that makes you a better health and safety person just because you know when to write a list and when you know to write a sentence. It's also incredibly academic, and I've always been much more of a pragmatic, hands-on person. I don't come from safety as a background originally. Like I say, it's offshore, it's electrical, engineering, heavy lifting, and I learn by doing, learn by making mistakes, which can be tough sometimes, but I feel it's the best way to learn things is to actually make a few mistakes. So I self-funded the NCRQ. It was a brilliant course. I'm thinking about making some training videos around the NCRQ. I've got some friends that want to do the NCRQ. I was very experienced and knowledgeable in health and safety before I started. I've been working in a health and safety role for some time. These guys are great guys that I know, and they're very knowledgeable and experienced in their areas, but they haven't had the exposure to health and safety that I have. So I want to give those guys a bit of coaching, and there may be you guys out there. There may be you that is looking for a bit of coaching in learning health and safety, specifically going the NCRQ route. I want to say, because I know YouTube is absolutely full of paid endorsement and affiliate links and stuff like that. I'm no way at all affiliated with NCRQ. Don't get paid for them. I probably will stick a link to the NCRQ website below, just to be helpful to you guys. But I just wanted to be crystal clear on that this certainly isn't an advertisement or a paid endorsement of NCRQ. I'll tell you why I did like it. I liked it because it was as close to real life as you can get in training. And what I mean by that is you're given real life scenarios, as close to real life as possible, and you're given a setting, and you're given some tasks, and the tasks make sense and they're in a logical order, which is what I like. And there isn't a hard and fast right and wrong. If you're asked to pick out all the hazards, then as in real life, you're going to naturally look for the stuff that you already know about or the stuff that stands out to you. And it may take you a bit longer to spot absolutely every single hazard. But generally in health and safety, we get to work with what is reasonable. And there's a great examples of what is known as being reasonable. One of the examples I've read is the reasonable man would cut his lawn in the evenings in a short sleeve shirt. Don't quote me on that. It's similar to that. And I actually might go back to this live and edit and put in the real quote in here. The other one goes along the lines of the reasonable man is neither as bold as a lion or as timid as a mouse. So what's reasonable? The thing with the NCRQ is providing you've hit the important parts and you put it across in your words, and that tutor can see that you understand what the requirements are, then he then marks it as a pass or a merit or however he deems marking it. But they certainly do have criteria still that you must meet, but there's a bit more flexibility for your own take on it, providing it is correct. One of the final assessments, and I don't think NCRQ would appreciate me giving too much information away for people that are either doing the course or haven't done it yet. But you're given a really good project with images of what appear to be real life work situations, and you have to build a package of what you would do as a health and safety manager for that business. Which is what I do, and which is what you're going to be doing as a health and safety person, either for your own business, for the business you work in, or if you're going to be a consultant, that's what you have to do for your clients. So I really like the NCRQ. The NCRQ have an equivalent of a certificate and a diploma, and on the educational framework, for the purposes of things like IIRSM and i-HSEQ membership, they hold the same weight. They're the same level of qualification. Now, I did my NCRQ when it first came out. I can't remember if it was 6 or 7 years ago now or something like that, I think. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong on the comments. And it was relatively unheard of with employers. Certainly my employer at the time hadn't heard of it, but then I was very lucky and they didn't care. They trusted me in my knowledge and skills. And by doing the training, I then managed to complete that loop, as it were, of gaining competence. I feel like I'm making a bit of a long story long here, which I'm not trying to do. This is just going to be a short live, like I say, mainly to test out going live, see what it looks like, see what it sounds like. I've got a mic that's probably too far away from me. I hope it does sound. If it's terrible, I'll try and see if I can do some editing to make it better. If not, I might put a warning up on the title that this is terrible footage. Don't bother watching. Anyway, so I was working for this one wing company, and for one reason or another, I got seconded across to their sister company, the original company that I'd worked for the beginning, and was the QHC manager for them. I'm going to speed up and shorten the long story now. So for quite a time, I was the QHC manager for two companies, sister companies, and then one was no more, so that went back down to one company, and then that company got bought out by a corporation, which really changed things for me because even though the company I was working for had grown and was bigger and was much more of a going concern, the company that bought us out were massive in comparison. And it soon went from a small, close-knit family company where people would bring their dogs in on a Friday morning in the office, and we'd perhaps go for a beer and lunch after work, to this more of a machine, less family orientated. They were friendly, don't get me wrong. I'd been in the Royal Navy, and there's thousands of people in the Royal Navy, but it's not a corporation. I'd never been in a business that large before, and I'm not one to fit in for the purposes of fitting, shall we say. I know we've all got our opinions, and they're not often welcome, but I like to do things my way. I'm always continual professional development is vital in safety, and for all my faults in the past, I've always been one to continue to learn, and I'm continuing to learn right now with YouTube, with filming, with videos. Hopefully improving on the way I speak, the way I edit, and the way things are. So I'm always one to learn and listen to different opinions. I'm not stubborn in that way. But if you're going to do a job and you believe that you have the right and the best way to do that job, then that's the way that you're going to go, right? That's your natural default. And of course, you've got to be open to open-minded and always exploring other avenues. But your go-to is what you believe is right. And I was with that company for, okay, so let's say 2015, I started with a boat company. It would have been, I believe, 2018. So 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 years, going to this ever increasing size company, big corporate. And I didn't fit in there. It wasn't them. It was me, but it was me because that environment wasn't me. Just thinking whether how far I should say it. There's a certain type of person that fits in that environment. Life's a game. Everything's a game. Work's a game. Your career's a game. School's a game. Relationships are a game. It's the way you play it.